Some of you may know that that I'm a Kohen, and I always consider it a special privilege to be able to duchen with my children and to bless Klal Yisrael. It's one of the special incentives that Kohanim have to make Aliyah, because a Kohen can only duchen in Chutz La'aretz during the Yomim Tovim, whereas a Kohen, at least among the Minhag Ashkenaz, Kohanim duchen every day in Eretz Yisrael. So something to think about. But in this week's Parsha, Parshat Naso, we have the Birkas Kohanim, we have the priestly blessing, and I just wanted to examine something curious about the bracha that you might have heard the Kohanim make over Yom Tov. If you've ever looked at that bracha, the bracha that the Kohanim make when they're about to turn around and make their priestly blessing, we say, Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech ha'olam, everything so far is normal. Asher kiddishanu, also normal. But instead of saying Asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav, we say Asher kiddishanu b'kedushaso shel Aharon. That God, you sanctified us with the sanctity of Aharon. V'tzivanu levarech et amo Yisrael be'ahava. And you commanded us to bless the Jewish people with love. It's such a touching bracha, and such a nice bracha, such a beautiful idea, right? So first of all, the question is, why do we change the format of the bracha? What we should say, Asher kiddishanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu. You sanctified us, the Kohanim, with your mitzvos, and you commanded us to bless the Jewish people. There's no other place in all of halacha where the format of the bracha changes like that. You sanctified us with the Asher Kiddishanu B'Kedusha Social Aharon, with the sanctity of Aharon. Just say that you commanded us, you Asher Kiddishanu B'Mitzvah, you sanctified us with your mitzvahs. Why are you going to say that? Because we only have the mitzvah to bless the Jewish people and no one else has the mitzvah? But yet there are plenty of mitzvot that only apply to men and don't apply to women. We don't say Asher Kiddishanu B'Kedusha Social Zicharim. You sanctified us with the sanctity of the male. Right? You sanctified us. There are plenty of mitzvot that apply to only one subset of Jews, and yet we don't include this idea that you sanctified us b'kedusha social Aharon, with the sanctity of Aharon. Why are we mentioning Aharon's sanctity in the middle of this bracha? The second question that we need to ask is that why do we add this word bi'ahava? If you look at the commandment of the priestly blessing, nowhere does it say that you have to bless the Jewish people with love. Love them before you bless them. It says, Kosav arachu es b'nei Yisrael amor lahem. So shall you bless the Jewish people. Say to them as follows: Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha. What's love got to do with it? Where is the love? What is the love doing in the bracha of the priestly blessing? That's our question. So to answer the second question, we have in source number 2. The source number 1 just gives you the Gemara, which gives you the source text for how you know you're supposed to make that bracha. It's from the Gemara in Maseches Sota. But in source number 2, when you look at the Shulchan Aruch, one of the commentaries of the Shulchan Aruch is the Magen Avraham, and he writes in Siman Kuf Chav Ches, he writes in chapter 128 of the Shulchan Aruch, he says, Be'ahava, the reason why you have to add the word with love, is nirali de perusho kemoshe kasuv bazohar. That this is based upon the Zohar, which says, Kol kohen de lo rachim le'ama. That any kohen who doesn't love the people, o ama lo rachamin le, or if the people don't love the kohen, lo yisakapav. He's not allowed to duchen. He's not allowed to give the priestly blessing. Now that's a beautiful Zohar, but it still doesn't tell us where this comes from. Where does this halacha come from that the Kohen has to be in love with the people that he's blessing, and the people have to be in love with him? No.
Excuse me. Rachamim is not necessarily love.
In Aramaic, rachameh is right. Rachimu, right, means love in Aramaic. Yeah, it's different. It's different in Hebrew. It has a different connotation in Hebrew. Yeah. So. There's a commentary called the Be'er Sheva, which is an early Aharon, an early medieval commentator in the post-Rishon period. And he explains that this is based upon a medrash. The medrash says, if in source number 3 in BaMidbar Rabbah, it says, Amor lahem. It says, speak to them. Amor, the word amor, speak to them, is written malay. It's written with the letter vav. Aleph mem vav reish. So Amar lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu la Kohanim. So what Hashem was basically communicating to the Kohanim was, Lo mipnei she'amarti lachem shetihiyu mevarchim et Yisrael tihiyu mevarchim otam be'angaria uve'behelot. It's not because you might think that now that I've told you to bless the people, then all you need to do is just have a lot of pomp and fanfare when you bless the people and do it out loud and do it with great pomp and circumstance. No, that's not what I'm asking you to do. Ela tihiyu mevarchim be'kavanat halev. But what I'm asking you is to have kavanah, is to do it with sincerity. That's more important than doing it with the fanfare and the pomp. Kedei shetishlam or shetishalem or shetushlam habracha bahen, so that the blessing could be fulfilled within the Jewish people. Lekach ne'emar amor lahem. That's why it says say to them. Say to them with fullness, with the full letter vav, meaning with sincerity, with kavanah. So if it's based on that, the word amor is written with the letter vav. It's interesting, isn't it, that the word amore, right? It's a similar word, it means love, but I don't think that's what Chazal had in mind, right? But the word amor with the letter vav means that it has to be done with sincerity and with a complete heart. So does that really mean that be'ahava? So the Be'er Sheva wants to argue that that's where we get the idea of ahava, that it has to be with a full heart, it has to be complete, with sincerity. The problem that I have with that is that if that's the only explanation, then the bracha should not have been Levarechet Amo Yisrael be'ahava. It should have been Levarechet Amo Yisrael bishleimut, or be'kavana, something to that effect. The word be'ahava is a very, very specific word that there has to be love there. It's interesting. One of the commentaries to the Siddur, in the Siddur Otzar Tfilos, the Dover Shalom, gives us another citation for how we know that the Kohanim have to bless the Jewish people with love. If you look in Sefer Vayikra, there is a discussion over there right before the deaths of Nadav and Avihu. The Torah talks about how the Mishkan was consecrated for the first time. And over there it says that after they brought their initial sacrifice and a flame came down from Hashem and consumes the sacrifice, and there's this great, tremendous sense of spiritual elevation that the Jewish people experience, it says, Vayisa Aharon et yado. It's in Vayikra Perek Tet, Pasuk Chaf Beis, source number 4. It says, Vayisa Aharon et yadav el ha'am. Aharon lifted up his hands to the nation, Vayivarachem, and he blessed them. Vayered me'asos hachatas ve'hola ve'hashlemim. And then he descended off of his platform after he had completed offering all of the sacrificial offerings of the day. Rashi over there says, Vayivarachem birkas kohanim, that he gave them the priestly blessing. Take a look, that's what the Rashi says over there. And so the Medrash over there on that pasuk says, Vayisaron et yadav el ha'am vayivarachem, in source number 6. Me'oto ha'et zacha Aharon hu uvanav l'nesiyot kapayim ad sof kol hadorot. From that point forward, Aharon merited to bless the people, he and his children, for all future generations. So there's something very revealing about this text. What's very revealing about this text is that originally when Aharon blessed the people, he did so before Hashem had ever commanded him to do so. Aharon had felt such inner closeness with the rest of the Jewish people. He felt so inspired that he extemporaneously got up, lifted up his hands onto the people without being prompted by Hashem in any way at all, and just gave them a bracha from his heart. That's what the Midrash is conveying to us. And if that's the case, now we can really understand why the bracha is phrased in the way that it is. Number one, who is the originator of this priestly blessing that is given as a privilege to all of the future Kohanim? It really is based on Aharon's own act of love to the Jewish people. So now we understand why we say Asher Kiddishanu B'Kedushaso Shel Aharon. God imbued us with the sanctity of Aaron. In other words, within all of the Kohanim for all future generations, there's that love that Aharon showed for the Jewish people that he passed on as a legacy for all of his future descendants, for all future Kohanim. And that's why we mention Aharon. God, you sanctified us with Aaron's sanctity, that you infused us with that sense of devotion to the rest of the Jewish people. And that's why you commanded us to bless the Jewish people bi-ahava, just like Aharon did it. The reason why Hashem gave the future Kohanim the mitzvah Birchas Kohanim is to mimic that original bracha that Aharon gave to the people after the Mishkan was first dedicated, all the way back in Sefer Vayikra. It's to show that it's not something that we have to do. It's something that we want to do in order to show our love and our devotion to the rest of the Jewish people. So at least that would give us a working understanding of why the bracha is phrased in that way. But I want to give you one more explanation. And that is from a sefer called HaKesava HaKabbalah, which is a very famous commentary. I believe it's either 18th or 19th century commentary to the Chumash. And it is going on it's a perush that goes on the pasuk in number 7, that after HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the Kohanim the priestly blessing, in our parsha it says V'samu es shemi al bnei Yisrael va'ani avorachem. Hashem says that in giving the Jewish people this triple bracha of Yivarechecha, v'yishmerecha, Ya'er Hashem panav elecha, v'chunecha, Yisa Hashem panav elecha, v'yasem lecha shalom. When you give the Jewish people, you Kohanim, when you give the Jewish people this blessing, you will be placing my name on the Jewish people. You will be placing my name on the Jewish people. What does that mean? And va'ani avorachem, and I will bless them. So what does this mean? By blessing the Jewish people, you'll be placing my name on the Jewish people. What do we mean by that? Let's take a look at what he says in the Rashi script. I know it's a little bit difficult to read, but it says, starting with the 6th word on the line, V'samu et shemi al bnei Yisrael, he says, by giving the Jewish people the aforementioned blessing, what you Kohanim will in effect be doing is that you will be focusing the Jewish people's attention to the fact that any blessing that we have in life is a result of Hashem's direct influence. And in so doing, when you give them this blessing and you focus their attention, and you say, listen up, Jewish people, Hashem is the one that's giving you all of the blessings that you have in life. Yivarechecha Hashem v'yishmerecha means that not only we're giving you a bracha, but we're also focusing your attention, and realize that when you get brachas in life, when you get blessings in life, and you get all of this wealth and children and nachas and all of these things, it's coming from Hashem. That's the purpose of the bracha, to focus your attention, say, hey, look where it's coming from. And in so doing, you're going to arouse the hearts of the Jewish people so that they won't place their trust in external forces or on their own might, on their own abilities. Ki kol zeh shav v'nit'eh im Hashem lo yiftach et otzaro hatov levaracham u'shamram u'lahashpiyam b'chol tuv. That all of that is folly. Any human initiative, any human effort that goes into the acquisition of wealth and blessing in life is for naught if God does not open up his storehouses from above. So what we, the Kohanim, have a responsibility to do is to remind you that it's all coming from Hashem, all the blessings that you have in life. Now, think about that for a second. You can look at the rest of the commentary yourselves later. Think about that for a second. The responsibility of the Kohanim is to sort of remind everyone, look at where all of this bracha is coming from. So now let's think about for a second, a Kohen is supported by whom? Who supports the Kohanim? The nations support the Kohanim. The nations support the Kohanim from what? From the blessings that they've been given. So obviously the Kohen has certain self-interests in order to make sure that the Jewish people continue to remain blessed and prosperous. But it's more than that. Think to yourself, you're a Yisrael, you just bought a new sports car, and you're going to show it to your friend, your neighbor, the Kohen, who lives down the block. Look at my new car. And the Kohen's going to say, oh, if only you realize that everything comes from Hashem. If only you realize you needed to buy a new sports car, a red sports car, you needed to have that. What are you trying to prove? Right? Think about the attitude that the Kohen may have when he's trying to fulfill his Kohanic role as the instructor of the Jewish people. And how digestible is that message, depending upon how he tries to communicate the information. If he's going to try and give a finger-wagging message about, you need to remember how all of the blessings that you've gotten in life come from Hashem, so don't abuse those blessings by buying yourself luxurious items, then that's not going to create an acceptance of that message. That's going to only engender a rejection of that message and a rejection of the whole objective of what the Kohen is trying to accomplish. And so I would think that if the whole purpose, like the Ksava HaKabbalah writes, is to v'samu Shemi al b'nei Yisrael v'ani avorachem, that the Kohanim's role is to place God's name upon the Jewish people and their assets, is to refocus the Jewish people's minds and hearts, that all the blessings that we have in this world have come from above, have come from Hashem. The only way that that message will be received properly is if the Kohen offers that message with love. And so Chazal, who formulated the bracha, were using basic common sense in communicating to us how a Kohen has to give his message. If you want the message to be heard, it has to be done with love. The Kohen can't speak with a sense of envy. The Kohen can't speak with a sense of preachiness or moralizing as far as how you should be handling your money. The Kohen has to speak with a genuine sense of happiness and love for the other. I'm so happy for you that you were able to be blessed by Hashem and be able to acquire all of the brachas that I wish upon you, my fellow Jew. And once I can present that bracha to you with the proper love and affection that Yishar Koach and Baruch Hashem, that you got the blessings that you have, and there's no jealousy there, and there's no moralizing, it's just that I'm happy for you. So then the Kohen succeeds in V'samu et Shemi al b'nei Yisrael. That's how the Kohen succeeds in his task of placing the name of Hashem upon the Jewish people. And sadly, unfortunately, this is the reason why all of the moralizing that comes from people who would wag the finger and tell off the people and say what you should and shouldn't be doing with your assets sometimes falls on deaf ears. Because people aren't stupid. People know that if a person is moralizing because there's a certain amount of envy that's being sublimated within the message, that, you shouldn't buy red sports cars because, I wish I could get a red sports car. So therefore you shouldn't drive one either, right? But if that's what's implicit in the message will never carry. And the message will never bring the name of Hashem upon the Jewish people. That's why I think that Chazal knew that when the Kohen blesses the people, the only way that he can accomplish his task is when the bracha is given with love. Something that we all have to remind ourselves. That we have to be happy for other people. It may not have been a choice that I would have made. Maybe I wouldn't have bought a red sports car if I had some of that disposable income that you have. But I should be happy for you at the same time. But Baruch Hashem, you've been blessed that way, right? And if I can truly be happy for you, then I can create Hashem's blessings to descend upon you, and for you to also have a more spiritual view of the world. Yes?
This is a very negative question, but I question how many people are really, that say they're Kohanim and are Kohanim. As a matter of fact, I know somebody whose father told him all his life that he was a Kohen, and then later on in life found out that he was not a Kohen. And here he was up there blessing us. So how do we, how can we accept these blessings ba'ahava, when, some people are lying that they're Kohanim. Or, there's a lot of Russian people that don't even know they're Kohanim.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair question. The question is, how do people know that they're Kohanim today? It does. I would venture to guess that there are plenty of people who think today that they're Kohanim and are not. And I would also venture to guess that there are plenty of people who never knew that they were Kohanim and really are. At the end of the day, all we have to go on is testimony that we received from our fathers. My father told me I'm a Kohen, so that's why I conduct myself as a Kohen.
Did you know your grandfather?
I met him briefly. He passed away when I was a young man, but he told my dad that he was a Kohen. So I can only assume that before his father was murdered by the Cossacks, his father told him that he was a Kohen, and that it goes back to some point back in history. Now, is it possible that I'm not a Kohen? Sure, it's possible. Hold on just a second. Let's give her a chance to finish.
I know this Russian gentleman. He's like my age, 60-ish. And he claimed that he was a Levi. So I said to him, well, how do you know you're a Levi? Because, you never went to shul in Russia. How do you know? And he said, his father got killed in the war. And, he never really knew his father. But the mother said that on the holidays he used to go to shul and he used to wash the hands of the Kohanim. Mm-hmm. So that's how he knew he was a Levi, okay?
Yeah. I'll tell you a funny story. Some of you may know I'm a moil, and so when I was first getting started in my moil career, back in San Diego years ago, I always, my policy is always to ask the question, are you a Kohen or a Levi? And so this fellow tells me, I'm a Yisrael, but my brother's a Levi. So I said, okay. I don't know, I guess it could happen. So he says, no, I'm totally serious. He says, my brother is the president of his conservative temple. And he felt that because he's such an important leader within the community, that he should upgrade his status. And he felt that it was too chutzpahdik to make himself a Kohen, so he settled on being a Levi. True story. So, I mean, it does happen. But again, now, and by the way, there are responsa by great poskim of the 20th century who do discuss how one can sort of assume that they are a Kohen. And the Gemara itself says that as long as someone tells you they're a Kohen, you do believe them, you treat them as a Kohen. Yeah.
I have a little bit. First of all, there is a story, Russian story, how Rabbi found out that somebody was a Kohanim family. It was in a family that they would go not to shul but to somebody's house, and mother made a big deal about socks. Because people don't have many socks, but this family was like,
they never had holes in their socks.
You have to make sure you have a decent sock.
Right. And also these, you go to the cemetery, and usually at the cemetery where the Kohen is buried, he's usually buried on the last row. Sometimes there are the hands on the tombstone. There are a number of ways to find out.
But I have a question.
Yeah.
Parents took upon themselves to give the bracha of Kohanim, some on Shabbat, some on Yom Kippur.
Yes.
Is it because they assume that they have enough Ahava and Kavanah?
No question. Absolutely. I think that's a very, very good point that you're making. All right, everyone, have a great day.